The Reverend Carolyn Crane was a 40-year-plus Unity minister that founded her church here in Mobile, Alabama, and we lost her several years ago. She told me in my first counseling session with her, we were talking about what self-healing is, what it is about overcoming our selfish desires or our desires to be dominant. And I guess she was talking about the archetypal consciousness. And I'm not sure it's the predominant life in her that spoke every Sunday, but something in her said, they will put up a dirty fight and then they'll leave you alone. In all my years, I've been seeing psychologists, therapists, psychiatrists since I was 14 years old. Only one woman ever told me they will put up a dirty fight and then they'll leave you alone. Two ministers believed I could reconcile Christ. One was Joseph Kennedy Schultz at the Atlanta Church of Religious Science, and one was Carolyn Crane at the Unity Church here in Mobile. They both basically saw something in me that I would stand up to the very end against my own selfish desires to be vanquished and put my faith in the afterlife rather than succumbing to the powers that rule this world. And they're both dead. And I guess if I'm honest, in some ways they both probably died because of my attempts at self-healing. They in a way were both forms of Louise Hay. Kennedy Schultz was the progeny of Raymond Charles Barker out of the New York Church of Religious Science, which is the first church of religious science at Alice Tully Hall. And Louise Hay went to California, founded Hay House, and Kennedy came to Atlanta. Those were probably some of Raymond Charles Barker's most successful students, though he had others. Louise was famous for having taught gay men in the late 1980s and early 1990s that they could heal their lives, that they were worthy, that they were not actually something deserving of a gay plague that they should burn in hell, but she was the voice out in California teaching the men in Los Angeles and San Francisco that they were worthy children of God, loved by God, and worthy of soul restoration and grace. And you know, Carolyn has a middle name of Louise, and of course Kennedy was related to Louise through Raymond Charles Barker. I think Louise Hay used both of them to help me come to the recognition of soul healing. I found a lot of spiritual healing, a lot of soul healing. And I guess you could say I'm kind of finding some stasis and some balance in my physical body. I'm not to the point that I'm in a nursing home or require more than 2 prescription medications. But I'm not thriving. And that's what this video is all about today. My teacher Kennedy Schultz used to say we have to get more than survive, we have to thrive. And I'm not thriving, I am just surviving. I want to get to a place of thriving. I want my highest potential to come forth. And yet that little petty screw tape that came out of the Catholic Church in C.S. Lewis about trying to tear me down doesn't want that to happen. And I'm tired of the battle with screw tape, with the evaluator, with something telling me that I'm worthless trying to destroy me. I've spent a decade with something trying to destroy me. This Veterans Day will have been a complete decade, and on December 5th will be a decade since I went into the light. I've wasted a lot of time when I could have had relationships with people, accomplished things, and had a beautiful life fighting a pestilence that did not want me to restore grace. And yet I did it anyway. I don't think there's any doubt that I found restoration in soul and spirit. It doesn't matter whether I'm rich or poor, sick or well, loved or lonely, or respected or disdained. I know I'm worthy in God's grace, in God's eyes. I no longer fear death. I no longer fear the fact that people may think I'm something other than what I should be. I'm not embarrassed to be who I am. I know the tides of eternity put a great battle for my soul. I spent many years in the last decade on a battle between purity and temptation. And when I got tired of that, I cut the cord to Louise Hay and cut the cord to the men of the Hermetic Order and cut the battle between purity and temptation. And then what developed was a new dynamic in my life. It was a dynamic of suffering versus healing, or suffering versus redemption. It seems to be that my life is about reconciling the opposites, and that's what alchemy is all about. And yet for me, I guess it doesn't matter anymore whether I take a pill, whether I am healed, whether I die. I guess I know basically that I'm worthy. It seems to be that's all that overcoming is believing in your worth when people try to make you believe you're worthless. I'm struggling right now. What should I do? I mean, I got to the point in this battle with Screwtape that I was either going to end up in a bed or a wheelchair, or I was going to have to take a pill. And I had the intelligence to take a pill, and in about 10 days I'm walking about like I was 3 months ago instead of going to a bed. Modern medicine does wonderful things. It doesn't bring soul liberation. It doesn't bring soul restoration. It doesn't reconcile Christ. But it does help us overcome our physical limitations in body. And I guess the question I'm asking myself is, do I need to keep fighting Screwtape and totally destroy my physical being and go from surviving to destruction and never getting to thriving over the pettiness of whether I'm going to swallow a pill? I have lost about 12 pounds over the last year. I'm not vomiting. I don't have diarrhea. I'm not having night sweats. I guess I don't have any opportunist infections, so I've had 2 forms of skin cancer, squamous cell and basal cell. I've had to have 2 surgical removals of some cancers on my skin that were bleeding. I'm having some thrush or some fungal infections because apparently my immune system is not strong enough to fight them off. And other than that and the walking, I'm in pretty good shape. But I'm asking myself, do I want to continue to fight Screwtape every single day over not taking a pill, or do I want to just go back to Dr. Baudet or Dr. Heinemann and get some antiretroviral therapy and get my life going again? Do something, nothing else, see the final 3 states that I've never seen. I've been to 47. I don't know the answer to this. I will tell you, I overcame my self-esteem because I went from a 14-year-old boy that thought he was worthless and not worthy of life, and I battled the hate in my life until I got to the point that it didn't matter whether I lived or died. I knew that God loved me. It didn't matter whether I was rich or poor, sick or well, loved or lonely, respected or disdained. I knew God's worth was in my life. I knew God loved me. I knew God would provide salvation, redemption, reconciliation, and I guess y'all are deciding whether I got victory. I think I did. Though I don't have a 7-pointed star, I have a 4-pointed cross, a 5-pointed pentacle, a 6-pointed star of David, and an 8-pointed star. I guess I need a 7 and a 9-pointed star, and I would have totally done it all.